Wherever you are in the world. My name is Epi Ludwig, and I'm the founder and CEO of a Crowdsourcing Week and Bold Awards. Welcome again. Brief history about Crowdsourcing Week and Bold. CSW is in its 9th year now, and beside doing conferences in over 30 countries and 4 continents up until late 2019, our focus has shifted with our digital marketing services for crowdsourced platforms and solutions, staying true to our core mission by powering breakthroughs together. Bold is our annual innovation program, which we launched together with H-Farm a few years back. H-Farm is the most unique and probably the largest innovation hubs in Europe and the world. With over 30 categories, this program is better known as the Oscars for digital industries. You can find out more on our website at bold-awards.com and submit your project or your company as you wish. First, I'd like to thank all of our speakers and, of course, you for joining this Crowd Sessions virtual event. Crowd innovation and acceleration in the era of decentralization. You are in real treat today, I promise. We have 3 special guests from the Open Innovation and Prize Challenges space. Cal Sahota, CEO at HeroX, Ludwig Melik, CEO at Planbox, and Noam Denon, CEO and co-founder at Q Markets. A little housekeeping here before we get started. Any questions you have, please put them on the chat section below here. Clive Rafael at CSW will be moderating all the questions, and we'll bring them to each speaker after their presentations. Rules of engagement, no negativity allowed. You can probably see my sign here. Literally, there's no need for negativity. Ask hard questions. We want hard questions. Connect with each other, but please, no promotion materials here. At the end, feel free to stick around and chat with each other. We want to dedicate some ample time for networking here. All right, so should we get started? Let's go. Ready? Yes. Crowd innovation, acceleration in the era of decentralization. Our theme for 2022 is decentralization and deglobalization. Each year we come with our theme. Last year, the theme of the year was about unlocking human potential. This year we nailed it. We nailed it. Literally, we are talking about a true real-time experience that we're seeing, the pushback between centralization and decentralization and deglobalization. So really interesting topic. I want to hear from all the speakers and also from you and learn from each other. All right, so why Bold? Been asked this many times. Well, you know, the platform that we have built, we built for an ecosystem of bold innovators coming from all over the world. Of course, 30 categories from AI, robotics, open innovation. It is true great experience together that we do with H-Farm, and look at what an experience that you can get and people can get in this ecosystem being created by H-Farm outside of Venice, about 15 minutes away from it. H-Farm stands for human farm. This is a true ecosystem that was built about 20 years ago. Now, highly is focused on education, how they can accelerate innovation with the arm of education. Yes, humans are the only species on the planet that can think abstractly, communicate complex thoughts, and culturally accumulate information over the generations. We are a spirit being. We're the only species in this planet that can innovate. We are, as we know, the innovation, it's a spirit driven. And we truly believe that crowdsourcing is a great mechanism tool powering breakthroughs together. And as you can see, all these platforms that we have here, from HeroX and Planbox and Q Markets, is the idea here how we can bring these innovations in this productive way with crowds, with people, by designing the real participation, bringing the purpose right in the center. So it's about 5 P's of this crowd economy that we're going to dig deeper. And if you look at, for example, where we are today, we're in this Web3 era, this future now, immersive internet. We're pretty much leaving this present moment of the World Wide Web, with also leaving this kind of a download mindset to the upload mindset. So it's a truly interesting times what's happening. However, when you look at all this, how this thing is happening, where this is happening, if you look at very closely, IBM has predicted about 2 years ago that the accumulation of knowledge is being done every 12 hours in 2020. I'm not sure how clear and how true that is, but definitely we are at the point of no return. You look at back in terms of 16 and 15 centuries, there was pretty much took many years to have a knowledge being doubled. And now we are truly in that time that we are experiencing ourselves. So what an exciting times to be alive, right? So let's do this. Now, because of decentralization, we have accelerated innovation, okay? A lot of times we think that is not the case. And a lot of times also we buy this idea, especially from a centralized powers, because if you look at back in let's say in the 16th centuries and before that, the world was super centralized. Okay, let's put it this way: the decentralization. Now we are pretty much more decentralized than ever before. But we are at the beginning of a huge new beginning of decentralization that the world has never experienced, never seen that before. And of course, centralized powers, they want us to believe that the world is in a better place now because of them. And that is not the case. The case is that the world is getting more decentralized. So I give you a warning, but also a warning for this great, massive opportunity we have in front of us. And truly, what a great ride we're going to see it 2020, 2022 and beyond is no longer just about the IoTs connected, 50+ billion of hardware being connected, but it's also about Internet of Skills that now we're going to see these nano skills coming into play. This is going to unleash lots of new opportunities. So thank you for joining us. And I'm truly looking forward to this great crowd sessions with the great speakers that we have. And I'd like to first start the introduction of the Cal Sapota. She's a CEO and a president at HereX with 25 years experience in corporate, primarily in financial services. With her passion for innovation, coupled with her background in corporate world, she's well positioned to understand the environment of current business and probably support brands and organizations in identifying strategies related to open innovation. Cal, thank you for your partnership over 5 years. What a great time we've been having all these years. Her presentation will be about the crowd and how to grow your own. Cal, welcome and great seeing you. And are you able to share your slides? Let me know.
I am. So if you want to stop your screen share, I can jump in and share mine.
Fantastic. Welcome.
How are you?
Excellent. How about you?
I'm doing good. I was going to say good morning, but I don't think it's good morning for you, my friend. That's the beauty of globalization, right? So our audience is probably from different corners of the world. So good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're at. And it's an absolute pleasure to be here. And Epi, to your point, it's, we've had the pleasure of collaborating for a number of years, and I appreciate the invitation to share a little bit today. So I'm just going to dive into our presentation. To our audience, I invite you to give some thought to when you think of how you can push your business forward through crowd innovation. One of the most critical aspects of this approach is being able to easily access and tap into the crowd. As we've already learned since the inception of crowdsourcing, I mean, CSW has been around for 9 years. I didn't even know that. But breakthroughs are not only distributed, but oftentimes in the most unlikely of places. So today we're going to share a bit about HeroX's methodology in accessing and growing your crowd, our key distinction as a social network, which really further supports your crowd. We'll also share with you a hugely impactful slide near the end there that represents research related to the expected growth in the crowdsourcing space. Really exciting. So let's get a bit of clarity on what we define as crowd. In broader terms, it's the over 3 billion connected to the World Wide Web. So at HeroX, we truly lean into the essence of crowdsourcing in that genius and human ingenuity can literally live anywhere. We didn't want to limit our community to a certain niche. The broader your crowd, the higher the chances of a more disruptive idea. It really removes that curse of knowledge. At present, we're represented in 175 countries, as you can see on the slide there, close to 185,000 in active innovators. So our platform tracks only active and engaged innovators who have engaged with one of our customers' challenges. We've essentially had 185,000 innovators recruited to our clients' challenges. And another key point is, and this really speaks to our methodology of growing crowd, on average, 82% of our innovators are new to our challenges. What was really hugely eye-opening for myself when I first came into this space is that the main driver for innovators to compete isn't the almighty dollar. Money is actually number 3, and if you look closely at the chart there, it's actually very closely tied to number 4, which is having fun. The data supporting the graph that you see on the slide there was compiled based on research conducted in partnership with Harvard Laboratory for Innovation Science. So why is this important? When you grow your crowd, understanding what drives them is key. In fact, that should be top of mind for you at all times. How you drive traffic is through, obviously, the content creation. So customizing your messaging and your content to really reach your audience ensures that highest level of engagement and success and conversion of those that come to compete to actually submit their ideas. So stepping back, let's look at what makes for a good crowdsourcing project. You see a few points there on the slide. It's certainly not an exhaustive list. The best solution is not obvious. Desired outcome is clear and measurable. People think that the problem, in fact, is solvable. That's important. The problem has not already been addressed in the market. And if there's only a few competitors in the market. Some things that make for not such a great project, if the results of the competition aren't compelling. If the sole reason, for example, for running your project is financial gain. A salesperson, for example, designing a project to get more leads. Our community is less likely to show interest in simply helping you make more money. So when I reference the last 2 points that I made, and you go back to the slide that I just shared, it really speaks to what compels innovators to compete. So keeping those foundational drivers in mind, let's go deeper into the specifics on how you frame the ask to the crowd. So when you post your challenge on our site, you want to ensure that it's clearly articulated. The more clear your ask, the more likelihood of success. If you ask it right, you get exactly what you're looking for. So this process is oftentimes referred to as challenge design. So going through some of the key points on the slide, addressing a problem area where there's an opportunity for change and success can be measured. Secondly, defining the problem to solve that, but not giving a path to the solution. Oftentimes clients get stuck. They're certain that their solution looks like X. But when you focus only on the problem, you feel that outside of the box thinking. Having clear, simple rules so innovators understand how to participate. Don't overcomplicate it. Explaining what you need in clear and simple format is important. Even if the subject matter is technical, the ask doesn't have to be complicated. Having a clear finish line. Let's draw the parallel to academia. If your professor says that this paper is due, hand it in whenever you want. There's no longer an urgency for yourself. So in fact, what we find is most of the submissions for any of our challenges come in within the last 24 to 48 hours of the due date. What we find is they all want to allow themselves to the very last minute in case something shows up for them that strengthens their submission. The last 3 bullet points, crowdsourcing is all about breakthrough ideas and inspiring new ways of thinking and bringing new ways of bringing new solutions. A well-narrated challenge will set you up for success, particularly when you're marketing your challenge to drive innovators to your challenge page. Having an interesting problem to solve is a great place to start. but ensuring that you frame it in a way that's compelling and interesting, I would argue, is just as much, if not more, critical. Here's an example of one of the projects that we hosted on our platform. So NASA was looking for new toilet technology. I know it's not glamorous, but it's a project. So they were looking for a new toilet technology for when they go back to the moon for the manned Artemis mission in 2024. This was actually a record-breaking challenge for when you look at the number of participants. Referencing back some of the earlier slides as to why innovators compete, you'll notice that the prize money, I mean, it's a good size, but it's not substantive. But there was still over 20,000 registered innovators. So what compels them to compete, again, is not necessarily the almighty dollar. Here's a great visual of all of the media attention that this particular project garnered. It's amazing how a challenge can reach the world and even get picked up by so many news outlets. It's not always easy to know what's going to cause a project to go viral. But again, I'll bring you back to the theme throughout this presentation: compelling content that really speaks to your target audience. We actually fully anticipated that we're going to get a fair bit of attention in the media for this project. We ran a similar project for NASA a few years back. When we ran the earlier project, what we noticed was we had a number of underaged innovators. They were just simply excited to compete. So NASA is incredibly supportive of STEM curriculum, which is based on the idea of educating students in 4 specific disciplines: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And the approach is, rather than teach the 4 disciplines as separate subjects, STEM integrates them into a cohesive learning concept, if you will. What's really impactful is that it bases it on real world applications, and how much more real world can you really get than solving a problem for NASA. So our team decided to run a junior challenge concurrent to the main challenge. There was no prize money, just some NASA swag and just bragging rights. So part of our value add for our clients, particularly for those projects that have really garnered a fair bit of attention, we host a complimentary winners webinar. The slide that you see there is a screenshot of our junior winners webinar. If you get a chance, go on to our YouTube channel and take a listen. Their ages went, if memory serves, I think from as young as 5 years old, actually. I assure you, you will leave feeling hugely inspired by these young innovators. Here's another example. I mean, it just happens to be a NASA project, but I mean, our projects, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes, range from every industry. But this particular one really stood out for me. It's the Exploring Hell Challenge. It happens to be primarily because of the diversity. It was seeking designs for obstacle avoidance sensors on a mechanical rover that would be exploring the planet Venus, hence the name Exploring Hell. So as I mentioned, what really stood out to us was the diversity of submissions and the solutions from all over the globe. We received 572 submissions from people in over 80 countries. And this is a really great visual highlighting the geographic locations where the innovators submitted. So let's jump into the next slide and talk a little bit about the winners. A great way to entice the crowd to compete is to offer multiple prizes and categories. It's a really great strategy, actually. So with this particular project, they went with 5 prizes. First prize was awarded to an Egyptian architect. Second prize to 2 mechanical engineers from Santa Barbara in the US. Third prize went to a mechanical engineer from Brisbane, Australia. And then they offered the best prototype prize, went to Cobart, which is a team, a husband and wife team located in Latvia. They created their prototype in their backyard. Most innovative prize went to a chartered mechanical engineer based in York out of the UK. Human ingenuity lives everywhere. You really have no idea where your best and most creative idea lives. If you went to NASA and said, hey, I have a solution for you, they'd say, great. What are your credentials? The other aspect of crowd is that it democratizes opportunities. It doesn't matter what your credentials are. It's all about the best solution. It removes anything related to color, creed, religion, social status, and education. If you have the best idea, you can potentially win. Crowdsourcing by design levels the playing field for all citizens of this world. It's rich with genius, and you can access all of the genius through crowd in a very simple and easy way when you tap into crowdsourcing. As I mentioned at the start of our discussion, our key distinction: we're positioned as a social network for innovation. So at HeroX, we support our clients in powerfully building their own crowd. We're the only place that you can build, grow, and communicate with your very own crowdsourcing crowd, your brand enthusiasts, if you will, a crowd that you can tap into again and again. HeroX offers you your very own custom brand page. So this is how it works. So for example, here's an example of one of our clients' homepages, American Made Challenges. And this serves as their homepage. So if you crowdsource a project, let's just say you had 100 innovators compete. You crowdsource second project, third project, your community naturally starts to grow. The distinction being your crowd stays with you. So you go from 100 to 200. In this particular case, you can see that their crowd is well past 11,000. Lastly, and very importantly, we have nothing about what backend you use. If you opt to use another platform that's available to you, we have nothing about it. We have strong partnerships. We have a strong partner strategy. You can still have a challenge card on your homepage on HeroX, but it'll simply click back through to whatever backend that you opt to use. Our focus is crowd. So I spoke about the HeroX methodology. It's a very simple 3-step methodology. It starts with the crowd that you have already built, your existing crowd. This may live on social, or you know what, you quite simply just may have email lists. Every challenge page has its own custom URL and a share or follow option available. It's simple and easy to invite your existing crowd to join any of your projects. So that's the first step. Second step is HeroX already has an active crowd of innovators. We actually refer to them as heroes. We know the industry terms are typically solver or innovator, but we lovingly like to refer to them as heroes. So as you saw from earlier slides, our crowd of heroes is 185,000 strong. Notable that they're not behind a paywall. They're available to you as a part of the access to the HeroX platform. They can self-select to participate in any of your projects. So that's the second one. The third is, and lastly, if you want to have access to our HeroX crowd build services, you can self-select from 3 packages at varying price points to further augment efforts to drive intentional traffic to your challenge page. This is an area that we're really pleased to say that we do in fact excel. We also have a full knowledge base, which is rich with templates and tactics to support you in building your crowd on your own if you so chose. Here are some of the examples of the clients that we've worked with. Again, I know I used a couple of examples specific with NASA, but you'll see that there's a range of size of organization to varying industries, even government. If you go onto our site, you're going to see that there's a wide range of challenges from varying industries and varying areas of focus, some of which include finding ways for astronauts to go to the bathroom on the moon, which was the Lunar Loo Challenge I just spoke to, developing artificial intelligence for high-speed racing drones as a project, which we ran for actually Lockheed Martin, improving the travel experience through the use of the metaverse. That's a recent challenge that we announced winners for actually this week. That was hosted for Airbus, and the list goes on and on. We have expertise to support you regardless of the complexity of your problem, the prize amount, or the industry. So long as your project is socially responsible, ethical, and legal, we're pleased to lean in and support you. So we invite each of you to look at what's in front of you. Where do you see the opportunity to leverage crowdsourcing to start building your crowd? The first place to start in supporting you with that is to oftentimes just simply reach out and learn more. So I mentioned again at the start of the presentation, just the sheer growth in this environment. So you see the slide there. This is the projected growth in the crowdsourcing space. It's tremendous. If you want to keep up with the pace of business and ensure both the success and relevance of your brand, we encourage you to simply get started. Listen, NASA has literal rocket scientists at their fingertips. Even they crowdsource. There's something to it. Even if it's a smaller project, it's enough to get your brand page launched on HeroX and the start point to getting your crowd built. You know, a story I love to share, I'm not proud of it, but I love to share. When LinkedIn launched all those years ago, I didn't really pay much attention. You know, I didn't think there was any value to it. I thought it was a bit of a fad. And I took on a role a few years after, and I realized that, you know, I really needed to be connected through to multiple individuals, like all over the globe. And I thought, okay, I really need to get this LinkedIn started. I struggled. You know, I struggled because, you know, LinkedIn had been around for years, trying to get those contacts and really build out my contacts. In other words, build out my own crowd. Don't be one of those organizations who, you know, like I did, pause and wait. You're going to struggle to build your crowd if you wait. You see that crowdsourcing isn't going to slow down. It's only going to grow. So for you to really get understood and clear on how you can leverage it for your organization is going to be critical. That's it. So thanks for taking the time to listen today. If you have any follow-up questions, don't hesitate to email me directly, cal@herox.com. Effie, back over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cal. This is awesome. LinkedIn, I do remember I was one of the, I would say probably like 5,000 first users of LinkedIn, and I haven't used it until I got the notification. And I got back. I was like, wow, that got me excited. So I went back. So maybe tweaking a few things around, building up the crowds could be amazing. And I think, thank you for sharing this great presentation. I'd like to bring Clive here. Clive, do you have any questions for Cal here?
I think everyone must be still scribbling away, taking notes or whatever.
Or maybe it was such a complete presentation, there was just nothing to ask.
Well, that's it. Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. And I've got a question though, Cal. I mean, you were saying that most of the ideas for any challenge come in within that final 48 hours before the deadline. Does that get anybody nervous about whether it's going to have been worthwhile or not?
You know what, that's an excellent question. And yes, it does. So when we have clients that, you know, it's the first project to crowdsource, they start to get really nervous. So we typically tell them up front, right when we launch the challenge, we tell them, don't worry about it. Worry more about the number of individuals that are registering to compete. So we want to make sure there's a good crowd there, but the actual submissions are not going to come till the very, very end. It's like writing an exam. You don't want to be the first one walking out because you think, you know, you might miss something.
Yeah. Have you, has HeroX ever gone through the exercise of just creating an average figure across all of the challenges that you've hosted and been part of, an average figure for the number of ideas submitted as a proportion of the total registrations?
Yeah, Grant, another really interesting question. So we actually haven't found there to be a correlation between the number of participants and submissions and quality and success of a project. So, I mean, oftentimes it depends on how obscure the subject matter is. So if you have an obscure subject matter, we had a particular project, and the name escapes me now, where we only had 15 submissions. But out of the 15, they had such a difficult time choosing a winner because they were all so remarkable. So it's the quality that matters. And depending on the subject, it depends on how much interest and excitement is going to be garnered by the crowd.
And you were saying a lot of that quality comes down to the quality of the design of the challenge in the first place.
Absolutely. I mean, if you ask clear, concise questions, and that's true in communication, period. If your questions are clear and concise, your responses will be as well. So if your ask is convoluted or overcomplicated, then what you're going to get is going to be exactly the same. So convoluted and competing responses. So kind of what you put in is what you get out.
Indeed, indeed. There's a question come through from one of our attendees, and it's, how does HeroX handle proprietary information and possible solutions? Yeah,
a good question. So we have so when it comes to we have 4 templates that you can use. So it's intellectual property is oftentimes one of the first things that comes up when we have conversations with the client. So we have 4 templates, either the sponsor keeps the intellectual property, or the innovator does, or it can be shared or open source. So we do have 4 templates that you can lean into and self-select. What we do find is oftentimes larger enterprise brands like to customize their own, and that's possible as well. The other thing I'll mention is that if you decide to keep the intellectual property, then your prize amounts are usually a little bit higher. So that's typically the way it correlates.
Okay, thank you.
Right. All right, Cal, great seeing you. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
We'll open up more questions at the end. And moving towards the next presenter, Ludwig Melik is the CEO of Planbox, an agile innovation management platform, an idea connection, and open innovation expert solver network. With more than 20 years of experience, Ludwig is an esteemed thought leader and a domain expert in full lifecycle innovation portfolio management, emerging tech empowerment, and ecosystem enablement. And thank you for our partnership over the years, Ludwig. Today's topic will be talking about right-sizing sustainable decentralization with innovation. Ludwig, welcome, and I'm going to allow you to share the screen right now here. So let me know if you're able to share the screen.
All right, so I think you should be able to see my screen.
Yeah, we're seeing it all clear. Welcome. Fantastic. And good seeing you. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for the great introduction and already a great presentation before. So we're kind of jumping into it now. So I appreciate everyone who's taken the time to join us today. As we discussed, today's presentation will be on right-sizing sustainable decentralization with innovation. My presentation is really on this particular topic. I'll quickly touch on what we do specifically at Planbox towards the very end, but I thought it'd be kind of interesting to give some interesting data points and information that will help the participants think about how they can take this back and hopefully ignite innovation in their particular organization. So decentralization really opens up a whole new world of possibilities, ripe for innovation and the need for new technologies. Leveraging the sustainability mandate, which is really what we're going to be looking deeper into in this presentation, and exploring the 4th industrial revolution technologies are really the perfect areas of focus to tackle this new challenge. So there was this really interesting article I read in the New York Times about waking up to 2030. Of course, after the pandemic that we've been living through, and there's been a feeling of acceleration of changes that would have, otherwise dragged on for probably, the next decade. So trends that were, kind of slowly moving suddenly started speeding up, and there's a sense that we've now waken up to normality, except we may have time traveled. So likewise, I think organizations are seeing that a lot has changed in the last couple of years, and just chasing after market share and increasing profit just doesn't do it. They need to really search for a new North Star, and definitely they need to be a lot more accountable to a wider set of stakeholders. And by stakeholder, I mean really anybody who has an interest or concern with the business. So today's agenda will be to look at what does this innovation era look like? How does this kind of connect to this decentralization, which is the focus of the presentation. How can you use a future fit strategy to be able to kind of come up on top and be a winner in this new innovation era, and how you can actually use sustainability as an advantage to do just that. And I'm happy to, of course, take your questions at the end as well. So I guess a good question to start off with is this 2030 agenda that we talk about the new Y2K? So for those of you who may not be familiar with the 2030 agenda, it's kind of, in every organizational report these days, and you hear a lot about it. It's something that actually the United Nations formalized just a few years ago, and it kind of got massive support from over 180 countries. So we'll look at the details around what does the 2030 agenda mean, but it's certainly focused on what is the kind of future we want as a world, and how are we going to get there, I guess, at this point over the next roughly 8 years. So for those of you who may be a little bit older, you may remember these headlines in the 1990s when the Y2K was front and center in the news. And it was predicting the most catastrophic system failure. Economists at the time were really worried because organizations were making lots of investments and they thought it would be a productivity killer. But it actually ended up improving business efficiencies and productivity a great deal. So likewise, it looks like now with this sustainability focus, it will be kind of the most radical change to any company's operations since the Y2K transformation. Now, so far, the 2020s have been a little bit difficult, right? Lots of mandates and regulations and lockdowns, but hopefully, much like we were able to live through in the last pandemic, there was the roaring 20s for the folks at the time, and potentially there'll be an unprecedented period of growth and sustainability and prosperity that lies ahead with the movement that is happening towards decentralization, and this focus on sustainability, I believe can help lead the way. So let's look at what I mean when I say a new innovation era. So, for the last 20 odd years, we've heard tirelessly about agile. Everyone wants to become agile. They want to focus and organize themselves around the customer. And kind of this is, as you can think of it, as the Web 2.0 world that we've been living through. And clearly, there's been a major shift and that organizations have experienced, especially accelerated, as I mentioned, since the pandemic. And now organizations understand that they need to do much more than that as they search for that new North Star, and they need to really design around the stakeholder. And I kind of refer to this as stakeholder innovation, and we'll explore that in the presentation together. And that really ties into this new way of working. And we've kind of launched this really interesting global initiative called Future Fit. And it kind of complements and then becomes the next generation of where organizations who become agile should think about going. So what is Future Fit? Well, it's really a mindset. It's about how do you, at an organizational level, not just by single teams, think about collaborating and working with the community that surrounds you. In today's presentation, I'll kind of limit myself to the 4 key values of Future Fit. But if you like the thought process and you want to learn about it further, and of course, if you want to sign on as a supporter of this way of working, then I invite you to go to the futurefitmanifesto.org website. And you'll learn a little bit more, and actually also dives into the 12 principles that are kind of grounding this Future Fit mindset. And of course, the tools and practices that surround it will be all the kinds of things you're seeing from the presenters today and other great folks who are out there trying to help organizations innovate and become more sustainable. So let's look at kind of the 4 key values of Future Fit, and I wanted to kind of compare and contrast them to Agile. I just want to say from the beginning that the idea here is not to say that Agile is not good. Agile is great, The idea is that while we value the ideas, the items and the values on the right, the agile ones, we do believe that the future fit ones should be prioritized. So let's maybe kind of go through each and every one of them. And I wanted to also connect this to our discussion around decentralization. So when Agile kind of started, one of the key values that got prioritized over process and tools was individuals and interactions. And we can all agree that was a very good change in organizations trying to get work done. The idea around future fit is really taking that and casting a wider net. I think this is really central to the Web3 decentralization messaging, which is community is really everything. And having that collaborative culture inside and outside, as the previous presenter from HeroX mentioned, is critical in driving success for organizations. The second value for Agile was working software, and that was prioritized over, comprehensive documentation, rather than getting bogged down in making sure the documentation was always solid. The thinking was, well, let's just start getting things done and let's start making progress, and then hopefully we can improve as we go. And that certainly is a great way of thinking. However, as we noticed, when especially there are these kinds of black swan events, we need to have innovative systems. We need to make sure that we are resilient, we are adaptive, we are creative in the face of whatever the organization may have to work against. So I think that's kind of the key second value that you will see in the future fit column. The third one, on the Agile side, we had customer collaboration. So certainly you wanted to make sure that you're not endlessly, negotiating a contract with the client, rather you're working with them. And that obviously served the purposes really well. However, we understand that the customers of today may not be the customers of tomorrow. So the future fit mindset is really around discovering opportunities. And when you really think about it as an innovator, you think about a horizon one and continuously improving versus looking for new markets or potentially completely transforming the business. That's really where that thinking is going in terms of the discovering opportunities value. And the fourth one on the Agile side was responding to change. This really was a critical thought change process for organizations, because they had to stop blindly following a plan, and they had to become a lot more agile, a lot more responsive to change. However, as we've seen, this has also created a generation of fast followers, and fast following is just not enough in the world we're living in today, especially in this new innovation era. You need to create your own futures, and we definitely see the more highly effective innovators are doing just that. So to kind of tie this now into the sustainability discussion, for those of you who may not be familiar, in terms of the evolution of sustainability, it all started with, those corporate social responsibility reports, which became kind of a social contract between business and society. It was obviously a good starting point. It was largely qualitative. So over time, that kind of turned into what organizations are generally producing today under the guise of ESG. And this one basically means environmental, social, and governance reports. And it's a lot more quantitative. It's essentially a rating system that organizations have now put in place. Now, the sustainability goals really becomes a part of that, and it's a very important addition, and we'll explore that in a little bit more detail. It's essentially 17 goals that the United Nations has proposed, but what's interesting is that there are actually 169 targets and 249 indicators. So really an excellent place for innovators to think about how they can really change the business and drive the decentralizations that organizations should be looking for, and ultimately creating the future we want. So this sustainability outlook is a major directional change for organizations, and ultimately can greatly impact their innovation efforts. So let's look at some of the numbers, and I think these definitely make the point. So if you say, well, why should I tackle these sustainability goals? Well, more than 50% or roughly 50% of the revenues of some of the largest companies are already supporting the sustainability goals that we're going to see in the next couple of slides. 3 out of 4 clients essentially say that if you don't pay attention to this area, we are going to stop doing business with you. The next number, which is an important one, is that a lot of the answers lie in new technology. And of course, when we think about decentralization and we think about all of the technologies that are potentially possible through the 4th industrial revolution, there's a lot of interesting innovations that can emerge. And if you're looking for funding, well, there's a lot of money that is being available and becoming available for organizations that are taking this area seriously. So clearly, this is kind of front and center for a lot of companies today. So if we look at the 17 sustainability goals, and you kind of look at them at a glance, these are all common sense things that I think we all agree should be practiced, right? Number 1, for example, is no poverty. Number 5 is gender equality. Number 11 is sustainable cities and communities. Number 13 is climate action. And probably one of the central ones that can help become decentralization possible is affordable and clean energy, number 7, right? And this is kind of one of the areas where we need a lot of innovations to help make some of the things that we are seeing with decentralization technologies such as blockchain become more affordable and more sustainable so that organizations can do more of it. So what's interesting is that actually each of these particular goals breaks into specific targets. And this is how we get to those 169 targets. For example, with clean energy, we have 5 specific targets that the United Nations 2030 agenda calls for. And then these actually further break into specific indicators that a business should be focused on. So again, I think really provides great focus areas for organizations as they think about launching new challenges and they want to get support from their executives. Another way of looking at this is that, these 17 goals are obviously cover a spectrum of economy, society, and environment. Now, rather than pursuing one particular individual goal, the opportunity for innovators would be to see how can I potentially come up with a fantastic idea that supports, for example, SDG number 3, good health and well-being. But then if I can extend it and think about it in a different way, it can maybe also satisfy further opportunities in goal number 5, gender equality, and maybe goal number 10, reduced inequality. So I think that combination of SDGs is also what you see in a lot of organizations as a focus area for their innovations. So that's kind of the quick overview I wanted to do in today's presentation. So really what we are proposing here is for organizations to think about, all right, I've been agile for hopefully some 20 odd years. What should I do next? And this is where the future fit strategy comes in, kind of at the nuclear of this the focus area. And of course, this now should be the enabler for the futures the organizations are looking for. To make that possible, clearly you need to factor in the right new emerging technologies that organizations should be betting on and ultimately leveraging these sustainability goals to support the investments you're looking for in your innovation. So if I kind of tie this into what we do as Planbox, we kind of use these to satisfy the 3 key pillars of innovations that we see organizations are looking for. So what you kind of see through the middle is how you want to structure your innovation program, how you want to create the right portfolio for your innovations. You want to discover potentially those breakthrough opportunities, how you want to satisfy those very simple continuous improvement opportunities that can create positive momentum for innovation fast, while some of the longer term bets start to pay off. And you want to make sure you have the right process to collaborate, experiment, and ultimately scale and commercialize those innovations so that you can drive the right outcomes for organizations. Of course, the answers don't only lie inside the company. You want to be able to create an innovation ecosystem inside and outside the enterprise. So not just the collective intelligence of your employees, but potentially working with your customers or your partners, or tapping into an external solver network, which is also something that Planbox provides with our idea connection solution, which is actually really interesting. And we actually provide a completely confidential process for organizations that are looking for that. And while you're doing all of these kind of two key areas, clearly, there's a lot of information that is becoming available. There's a lot of interesting startups that you want to think about working with. And that's where you see the bottom area in terms of insights that you want to factor into your innovation process. So we do a really good job of connecting those data points and making sure those insights are becoming available to the attentions of innovators as they're going along. So this is kind of the essence of our Planbox innovation platform. It's a completely modular solution. It can be implemented in a phased manner. So ultimately, you can pick and choose what are the areas you are focused on, how you want to get started, and ultimately, you want to be able to, hopefully over time, be able to do all of these things. So with that, I'll just leave you with one final quote that I think kind of makes the point for today's presentation. Sustainable development is a fundamental break that's going to reshuffle the entire deck. There are companies today that are going to dominate the future simply because they understand that. And that was a quote from François-Henri Pinault. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation, and I'm happy to take any of your questions.
Alec, always a great presentation. This is truly amazing because you touched about the leveraging a future fit strategy, and you've done this future fit manifesto, which is amazing. What do you think is the key here that we need to focus in terms of like how can we direct organization? Because you mentioned something that is very interesting. You said that, was it 40%, 50% of organizations said, if you're not going to pay attention to this, we're not going to do business with you.
Exactly. Now, actually, that number was 75%. Yes.
75%. Yeah. So that's a scary number.
Yes. Exactly. And I think, I kind of come from the project management world, and we've seen so much focus by organizations in Lean Six Sigma and driving efficiencies, and there's just so much of that that's possible, right? I think the opportunity for organizations that understand what lies ahead is, how do you really truly create the competitive advantage of the future by building an innovation ecosystem that, of course, is the right network, it's nurtured, and you have the right connections, whether you're using an external solver network or you're complementing that with your own internal efforts. I think making sure you're able to innovate inside out and outside in, and have that collaborative culture is key to the future we are obviously gravitating towards.
Clive, do we have any questions for Ludwig?
I've taken a look. I think people are still, as it was with Cal, I think they're still just trying to absorb everything that you've been able to tell us today, Ludwig. But I thought what you were saying really balanced well with Cal, the first speaker. She was talking about the importance of the design of the challenge to get the right kind of ideas from the people involved. You were talking much more about the importance of sorting out how to handle the ideas that come through.
Can you hear?
Yes, sorry.
I was saying, Ludwig, that you were talking much more about the clients using you to organize and get ready to handle the ideas that come through. Otherwise, things are just going to accumulate into a bit of a messy heap.
Exactly. I mean, actually, I would kind of add that I think the area that a lot of organizations who understand this stuff are even more interested in is, how do you actually discover the right problems to solve? So rather than even just jumping into ideation, is making sure you do a really good job of thinking about the problems you want to solve. And we've definitely seen a lot better success and much more valuable opportunities get generated when organizations really focus on the right challenges.
Okay, thanks. We've got a question here from Hilary Van Welter, and she's asking, how do we move from sustainability to regeneration? She thinks the sustainable development goals are getting rather tired.
Okay. I'm not really sure I completely understand the questions, but SDGs are actually fairly new, and they were introduced just literally before the pandemic. I don't think organizations paid enough attention to it. Now you kind of see them become a lot more front and center in the ESG reports organizations are producing, and I think that it is definitely becoming central to how organizations are being, considered and evaluated in the marketplace. And frankly, there's been also a lot of backlash because some organizations are not necessarily really doing what they're saying on the sustainability front. So I think we're really scratching the surface. I'm not really sure, we'll get there in its entirety by 2030. So I wouldn't say it's getting tired. We're just getting started.
Okay, well, following this through, Ramesh has asked, how do you see the shifts, the trends in policies from voluntary to global regulatory frameworks? And on that basis of transferring what was voluntary to regulatory, which countries do you see as being ahead in the ESG sector?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that that's necessarily kind of an area that I know enough about. I'll kind of just comment on it from my perspective. I think that definitely we are seeing that the whole kind of premise of the world we're living through, and kind of back to that discussion around stakeholder innovation, is that it isn't necessarily only about what you are doing or what your customers are impacted by, and it is exactly that global nature of where you are sourcing your products, where you're manufacturing them, how are you introducing them to the marketplace, and what kind of a footprint are you leaving in the environment in the process of doing that. And all of those things can have huge impact in how your organization is going to kind of prosper in the future.
All right, thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Ludwig, and thank you for partnership. I like that question you asked. Is the 2030 agenda the new Y2K? Time will tell. And thank you again. This was great. Moving to the next presenter. His name is Noam Dannon. Through his experience with Q Markets, Noam is one of the leading world experts and thought leaders in creating scalable innovation management processes at large organizations. In the past 15 years, Noam has been one of the pioneers of the idea innovation management software market, and has been personally involved in design and planning successful implementations of dozens of enterprise innovation programs in global corporates. Noam is especially focused on collective intelligence. This is my favorite topic, by the way, in big companies, and on how to create meaningful and long-lasting engagement with large audiences of stakeholders. Again, what Malik was talking about, both internally and externally. Noam, his presentation will be about how to scale a decentralized innovation ecosystem. Noam, welcome. Good seeing you. And let me know if you're able to share your screen.
Sure, happy to be here. Thank you, Happy, for the introduction, and hello everyone. So let me share my screen.
Perfect. It's coming. Great, you're all set. Welcome.
Okay, wonderful. So, hi everyone. Pleasure to be here with you, and thank you for joining this short presentation. So, as Epi described, I'm the CEO and founder of Q Markets, and in the past 15 years, I've been really working in this emerging space of innovation management, working with wide variety of companies and especially global corporates around the globe. And we've been really helping them to scale their innovation activity. So as we're speaking about decentralized innovation, so decentralized innovation means different things to different people, but when we look at it at Q Markets, We basically look at how companies can break their internal silos and how companies can really build an ecosystem with all their different stakeholders, internally and externally, and build this really scaled up innovation ecosystem. And when we look at the innovation ecosystem that companies are building or are trying to build, this is a typical kind of description of where they're aiming at. Most companies are still not there, but they're all trying to get to a similar point from different angles. So they have all their different stakeholders around them. They have their customers, they have their business partners, suppliers, startups, academic institutes, and experts. And of course, they have their internal stakeholders. And basically what they're all trying to do is to identify the right challenges, as the previous presenter said, and identify the right opportunities. And then they're starting to look at what could be solutions for these opportunities and challenges. And typically we see two ways for getting those. One is through ideation. Ideation could be with internal stakeholders and could be with external ones. And the other is through open innovation, basically looking at scouting, looking at the external startup community, looking at the solver community, and finding solutions outside. They then need to take them and incubate, do POCs, evaluate, and eventually the end game is, of course, to bring those solutions to implementation. Now, as you look at this diagram, it describes kind of a theoretic organization and what they're aiming for. And most organizations are struggling with how to scale this, how to build a really scalable organization and ecosystem around it. And all the trends show that this is where the world is going to. This is where organizations are heavily investing around open innovation, around co-creation with their customers and internally, around building internal innovation programs. So it's all about how do you really scale this and how do you really build a decentralized innovation. So if you look at what are the driving factors or driving forces for companies to move in that direction, so naturally, there's a variety of different factors, but the key ones we see are typically around internal resources and the need to really tap into all the internal knowledge, but also to be aware that you cannot do everything on your own and you need to look at outside and what's happening there. Shortening time to market and reducing risk is, of course, critical factors for all corporates. And naturally, the fact that there are very complex organizations, very distributed organizations, create additional kind of challenges along the way and are pushing organization into trying to solve these challenges. So the challenges that we see in actually doing it are, we divide them into three parts, like many things. So first of all, there's a lot of different data sources and data points out there. So as I'm trying to figure out what's happening in my ecosystem, what will be impacting my company, and when I try to do that as a team of innovators around the company, it's very difficult to keep track and really build this collaborative knowledge base internally. The second thing is, of course, the fact that we're working in silos. So different units are trying to do different things within the organization. It's really hard for the different units to communicate, and sometimes they're trying to solve similar problems and are not even aware of that. And when you try to bring in a siloed organization with different stakeholders internally and externally all together, of course, keeping track of all the different innovation activities, all the different projects is very difficult. And today, most organizations are doing this through a wide range of different systems that are not interconnected. And this is exactly the problem that we're trying to address. And this is the also kind of the guidelines for the solutions we're bringing to the market. So if you look at this, the distributed organizations have a wide range of needs and priorities and challenges coming from the different units. And outside, they need to tap into trends, patents, technology. They need to look at the startup community and the expert community. And of course, they have their own internal stakeholders. And they need to identify ideas, solutions. They need to run prototyping and POCs and eventually deliver results. And the Q Market solution is positioned right in the middle to be kind of the cornerstone of the innovation ecosystem of every organization, whether it's starting small or whether it's already very robust. We can walk you through that process. And if we look at the previous slide with the innovation ecosystem, Q Markets offers exactly a solution for that. So we have a single platform that allows organizations to manage all the different use cases, all the different stages required for their innovation ecosystem, whether it's looking at the outside and looking at what are the trends and building the company knowledge base around it, or whether it's doing open innovation and technology scouting, looking at building an employee innovation program, an end-to-end one, and of course, bringing eventually looking at all the different innovation projects that are happening across the organization and keeping track of all those and really measuring their impact on the organization. So how does it work? Kind of a quick guide to what does it mean. So eventually, I like to look at it as a four-stage process that every innovation manager is going through. They need to do their research, and this is, of course, all these tasks are ongoing, and it's more of I would say, a circular motion than a step-by-step. They need to collaborate with different stakeholders internally and externally. They need to perform evaluation and screening, and eventually identify the most relevant ones and commercialize them. So if you look at this step by step, so the first bit is the research. And for research, you can utilize external data sources, and we have built-in tools that are actually through a partnership with our great partners at Wellspring that offer a wonderful tool for performing wide range researches on startups, patents, databases, government grants, and others, all in a central place and all embedded into the Q Markets platform with full integration. So the innovation managers can fully perform their research and then in one click just pull the data in. We also integrate with other data sources and other providers like our friends from HeroX that presented before us, in order to bring our customers the best of breed solutions and eventually aggregate them into one place. We then allow them to really collaborate with all the different stakeholders. They can advertise challenges to the startup community. They can run challenges or campaigns internally with their employees in order to ideate and collaborate around it. They can perform wide range of activities and engage each one of their stakeholders in the right way, but all centralized in a single place and a single space. They can also look at outside trends and kind of build their own knowledge base of what are the trends out there and how are they impacting us as a company. So connect the dots between the external sources and eventually what will make the impact for us as company X, and really bringing in all the different business units and seeing what could be potential uses or potential challenges for specific industry trends or for specific startups that they're engaging with. We then offer them the necessary tools after they've done their research and collaborated and brought everything together in a very efficient and scalable way. We offer them all the necessary tools to basically manage their pipeline. And the pipeline could be multiple pipelines. They have a pipeline of deal flow of startups that they're dealing with, and they have pipeline of ideas that are coming internally. And these are different pipelines. They behave differently, but our customers can manage them side by side and interact between each other. You're dealing with a lot of data. You're crowdsourcing a wide range of information. It could be solutions, ideas, trends, and startups. And eventually you need to make sense of all this data. And this is where we provide a lot of AI and machine learning to allow our customers to really understand what they've collected, identify trends or topics that are discussed more, and focus on them in order to really make this process efficient and effective for them. And also visualize it. So you have a portfolio of companies or startups you're trying to engage with. You have a portfolio of different trends that are impacting you. So we offer visual tools that you can align and kind of slice and dice and arrange them for your needs. So basically every customer can really visualize their different portfolios or their different impacts, and basically use this, for example, Sonar tool in order to build a visual map of what are the different things that are impacting me, and also eventually find within it very easily the information you're looking for. And of course, all of this is not worth anything if you don't measure everything and if you don't bring it till the end. So, of course, ideation is not enough. You need to, like Ludwig said, you need to first find the right challenges and make sure you're focused on them. You then need to do efficient and scalable ideation and crowdsourcing of different solutions. But eventually you need to bring everything into commercialization. And this is where the platform allows you to perform all these tools and also track your ROI, track your forecast versus actual, and really see the benefit of your scaled innovation ecosystem and your innovation processes. So tying this all together, we eventually allow our customers to bring all the different points into one system, also by integrating with best-of-breed solutions and best-of-breed data sources. So we can't invent everything. So we're doing our own open innovation as well, and we're bringing the best solutions in to effectively and intuitively kind of collaborate and allow them to collaborate with all the different stakeholders. Add all the necessary intelligence into it to make sure that the process is efficient and you can really run it at scale. So this works if you have small community of 500 users, and it also works if you have a combination of multiple communities that are 100,000 people or even more. And some of our larger customers really get to that point and really tap into that massive potential, both internally and externally. And eventually, I think that the key advantage, or one of the key advantages that we can bring to the table, is the fact that it's all in one, using the same familiar interface for all the different innovation activities. So just a little bit, 2 words about us, going back to the story. So we've been around for a while. We've been helping customers around the globe doing this for more than 15 years. And we're working with really a wide range of customers around the globe, really help them as our partners, to really help them to scale their innovation activities and really make the most out of it. And we do this with very strong emphasis on working with our customers and really listening to them. And I think this is also where most of our product has grown over the past 15 years, is by listening to our customers and really filling in the gaps that they bring to us and the pains that they face. And this is a really, really important part of our approach of kind of working with our customers hand in hand right from the beginning and for as long as they're working with us year over year. So this is it. Try to make it short and fit it to the timeline, Epi. So
fantastic, Noam. Thank you. This was a great presentation. Clive, do we have any questions for Noam?
Hi, hello, Noam.
hello.
Great presentation there. We've got a question that's come through. One of the audience is asking you what are some issues or questions that a corporation should consider when trying to decide which problems or opportunities to take to the external world for open innovation, and what are some of the issues that means that perhaps they ought to keep them internal?
So that's, it's a difficult question because it eventually depends on so many factors. So I would say ideally, eventually, the more I would say technological focus challenges that are more around the R&D space are the ones that our customers tend to externalize much more, and discussing internally is something that there are really no boundaries and limits, and in most cases what we see eventually what dictates which challenges customers externalize and which challenges customers tend to keep internal is more around IP, sensitivity, and is more around maybe the willingness to open up. And this is a gradual thing. So it's not a trivial thing for most organizations to even open up internally. So even advertise all these different challenges to all their 20,000 or 50,000 employees is sometimes very challenging for traditional organizations. And we see this as a gradual process that companies take as they also build their culture of innovation and also their confidence in it.
That makes a lot of sense, kind of doing things on a step-by-step basis, starting with a bit of a toe in the water for people to find out that their fears are and concerns are misplaced about it. That
our
bring the roof
best
crashing
recommendation.
down.
Yeah, our best our best recommendation for that will be to, especially in the beginning, pick quick wins. You need to show yourself, you need to show the organization, you need to show your bosses that this works. So pick quick wins, both internally and externally. That should be your starting point, not something that will bring results in 3 years, because that's hard to scale with. So you need those to begin with and then gradually expand.
Thank you. Hugo is asking if you can resume the pipeline for a decentralized innovation system and where to get more value.
If I can, sorry, resume.
The question is, can Noam resume the pipeline for a decentralized innovation system and where to get more value?
Okay, I'm not sure I understand the question. I apologize. Where to get more value? Yeah, sorry, Hugo. I'm not sure I understand the question. Maybe we should skip to another one, and you can clarify it in the meanwhile in writing.
Maybe we bring him. Maybe we bring him on the stage. So let's see.
Happy to address it.
Yes, of course. Let's do that. 1 second. Just trying to.
In which phase we can get more value out of inside the pipeline or the ecosystem? So eventually the value is not in a specific part of, in my eyes, is not in a specific part per se in the ecosystem or in the pipeline. And it also depends on what is the value you're trying to get. So organizations at the early stages are still trying to prove that this concept of decentralizing and opening up the innovation internally or externally works. And this is where, as I said, sometimes it's finding the quick wins, and sometimes it's showing that the engagement works. Okay, so they're in many cases in the beginning, they're very focused on let's create a meaningful engagement, let's create gradually the culture and the community, and then the rest will follow. So sometimes they're just more focused in the early stages on the actual, let's say, ideation, for example. But the more they, the more they scale and the more they mature, then eventually they're all trying to get to the ROI. So if eventually most organizations will agree that once you start scaling is the biggest challenge is to have a pipeline that goes all the way and goes all the way to commercialization and showing the ROI of it. I hope I addressed it.
Okay.
We've got a question here, which I think really has been the subject of the whole session today. And the question is, how can the innovation be decentralized to get more value? I think you were saying that right at the start when you were saying go beyond a company's own boundaries.
Yeah,
and
decentralizing, as I mentioned in the beginning, decentralizing is about opening it up and first of all breaking the silos internally, and second going outside. And this is exactly where launching idea challenges internally, opening up scouting and open innovation activities and advertising. This is our company and these are the challenges we're now facing and we need your help, we need your solutions. You have a lot of customers that are actually positioning themselves and building a marketplace where they are a very significant player trying to connect the different pieces and making themselves a hub to our platform, connecting academic, startup, research, and their own experts in one big hub and interacting with these. So there are a lot of different ways that this can work. There isn't one answer or one size fits all. We work with every organization to find their way of getting there. There isn't one way of getting there. There is just one end solution that eventually they're all aiming for, but the way there is very, very different.
Great. Thanks, Noam. Hugo sends his thanks for your comments. So I guess you answered his question for him.
Yeah, wonderful. Happy to. And of course, if anyone has follow-on questions or anything, I'm happy to just reach out to me on LinkedIn, and happy to address them.
Fantastic. This was great presentation. Thank you for joining us, Noam, and thank you all for coming to this crowd session virtual event. Yes, join us next month on October 20th at 5 p.m. Central European Time, where we'll be talking about crowdsourcing data annotation and AI as a part of our crowd session. So look out for events at our crowdsourcing.com/events page. Also, if you're interested in joining in Bolder Words, just type yes in the chat and below, and our team will reach out to you directly or share the link. Thank you again for joining us. We would like for you to stick around for another 5 minutes or so of networking with our speakers and everyone here. You can share with each other. Hope to see you all next time, and take care and be bold.
Okay. Thank you for the invite, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.